In my attack, I couldn't run away. He grabbed me, and I was trying to flee first because I was trying to go to all the responses. And then, so when he grabbed me, I was like, okay, fleeing isn't, the way.
Are you going through life blind? This is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. On this podcast, we share knowledge and stories that build human connection while elevating stigmatized societal issues such as mental health, holistic wellness, culture, free speech, and more. All to ensure we show up in the world with our eyes wide open. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eyes Wide Open. Our guest today is Terra Newell. Terra is a survivor and powerful advocate and resource for other survivors. Now, you may recognize her from the Dirty John podcast or other related content, but that does not define Terra, which has become more and more evident to me as I've gotten to know you. But you are also a passionate life coach that's dedicated to helping others heal from trauma, rediscover themselves. You also host a podcast, which I was a guest on, Terra's Baddie Club, and you have other wonderful guests there. And you were recently starting to, I guess you've been advocating, but you're really advocating for ethical true crime content creation and podcasting. And you just launched a course called the True Crime Course for Ethical Podcast Creators, which is designed, and you'll get to describe it in your words, but designed to help people create podcasts that are ethical and responsible in the true crime space. So thank you for coming on. I'm very glad you're here, and I'm excited to talk to you. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. I feel very comfortable here because we just chatted for an hour. And
how are you doing? I know. I'm like, and how are you doing? I'm like, well, we covered that an hour ago.
We're doing great. We're doing great.
That's good to hear. We actually just met in real life at the premiere of Him, which is the movie that I worked on, and you came to meet in person, and I thought that was awesome because I don't get to meet most people in person. So thanks for coming to that, and it was great to meet you in real life. And now we're recording this podcast a few days later, and I want to start off by asking you the same question I ask all my guests, which is what we were laughing about before recording, and that is, what did you want to be when you were a little kid? And how did that change over time into your adulthood and lead you to where you are now?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. However, I didn't like blood, a little foreshadowing. And so I wanted to switch to a marine biologist. And I really love the ocean. I feel like every girl in California at one point wanted to be a marine biologist and wanted to get like a dolphin tattoo. I didn't get the dolphin tattoo, but I wanted to be a marine biologist.
But which tattoo did you get on your foot?
Well, I have two on my feet. I have one that is a heart that says Psalms 23, and I wanted a heart because we were laughing because I said that I'm not a Swiftie, but then I said, oh, I got a tattoo because Taylor Swift has a heart on her foot.
And then I said, I think that makes you a Swiftie.
Yes.
So I just had to get that out there. So
yes.
You wanted to be a marine biologist.
Yes. And
dolphin's your favorite animal?
Not really. I love dogs. And then I think I switched to dogs. There was a lot of just different animals involved. And then right before I got attacked, I landed on being a dog groomer.
Oh.
Yes.
That's really cool. I didn't actually know that. Did you do that or?
Yeah, so I did it for at least 3 years before that. And that was something that I was building my career on. I also worked as the kennel attendant at the facility that I worked at as well. And so I was building a career and just honestly like building my life. And I was on the way there.
Yeah. Is that something that you still do or would ever consider doing again?
No, because unfortunately with my trauma, and I've done a lot of trauma work, but it has made me not want to work with dogs as much. And I still watch dogs, but I don't groom them. I don't go to a place and work with dogs every day because my dog was with me in my attack.
Hmm.
And so him barking and other dogs barking can sometimes be a trigger to me.
Oh, that's totally understandable.
Yes.
And that's awful too, because as you know, dogs are like the best, but not when they're, causing a trigger and sending you into a bad headspace.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I wanted to have you on today because you're doing phenomenal work in advocating and literal work on content creation around true crime. Um, and I think a lot of people probably know your story. But for those that don't, or those that need a recap, in your words, and as much or as little as you want to share, can you tell your story that led you to this advocacy? And then we'll dive into all of the work that you're doing around that.
Yes. So my mom ended up meeting a psychopath, not knowing he was a psychopath, on this website called Our Time for people that are dating in their seniors. He had everything that she wanted. He was a doctor. He loved dogs. He was charismatic, very charismatic.
Mm.
And she met him and he just checked all the boxes. And so she got into this relationship with him. There was a few red flags that came up before I met him and when my sister met him. And so my sister and I were not fans of his. And then eventually my mom left him because my family brought together a bunch of information on him. We hired a private investigator. The private investigator told us that he was fresh out of jail, that he used different social security card numbers to get different drugs and would doctor shop in a sense. He also
Mm.
had several restraining orders on him. And then, as well, he had this storage unit, and inside the storage unit, there was a fridge. And inside the fridge, there was a backpack with a child's book, zip ties, and stuff to make chloroform in a sense. And he was a very evil guy. There's so many women out there that were terrorized by him. But how this story came to end was he came after me in a parking lot, attacked me, and me and my dog defended myself, and I was able to kill him in self-defense. And then the LA Times covered that story. It got turned into a show on Bravo, and then to Netflix, sold to Netflix then. And then also so many documentaries like Dateline, Evil Lives Here, The Woman in Dirty John, just so many documentaries I can't even think of. And then many, many press appearances, Dr. Oz, The Today Show with Megyn Kelly when she was there. Kelly Clarkson, and it's funny because Kelly
I
Clarkson,
watched the Kelly Clarkson one.
you did?
Yeah.
It's so funny because everybody says I look a little bit like her, and my
I actually
phone,
thought that too because
really?
I watched it on you. Yeah, I was like, oh wow, they actually resemble like your facial structure.
Okay. You
Yeah,
want to see something funny?
yeah.
My phone, it says Terra, it's Kelly
Oh
Clarkson.
my gosh, that's crazy. It's hilarious, kind of.
Yeah, so my phone thinks I'm Kelly Clarkson too. And that was great because I actually got to meet Selena Gomez, and she was so
Oh, I love
sweet.
her.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
She came up
awesome.
to me, Nick, and she was like, I'm such a fan of yours. And I was like, yeah, same.
Yeah, yeah. Coming from one of the most popular and famous people in music and
Yes.
everything.
Yes. Well, she's a huge fan of Dateline. So
Oh, okay.
that's how I got to meet her, because it was a segment for Dateline. And then they had on their most played episode the people that are in their most played episode. So we came
Oh,
on.
wow. Together.
Yeah.
That's That's so random, kind of like what a random and interesting way to meet Selena Gomez.
Right? But I'm not mad about that at all. That's one of my favorite memories of having my story out there.
Yeah. That's, and I think you're so brave for what you went through to be in that horrific situation for years of the relationship and then have it sort of, manifest into what it did. But what I think is so interesting about you and getting to know you a little bit more the last few months is that you've really turned this horrific event into important work. And it's cool. There's always like a couple when you get these like public, you're in public, right? Your story's out there.
Yes.
There's always at least a handful of cool things that come out of it. And I think it's like one of the things that I've had to work on kind of like in therapy is to appreciate those little things and know that something like that is, it's okay to appreciate that moment, right? It's okay to have like, it's okay to enjoy being an executive producer on Him, which is, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to enjoy that. It doesn't have to be a reminder of whatever happened. So I think it's great that you can appreciate that. Do you have any other that were like really good experiences?
There was like, I think it was cool going to New York and then being on the Today Show and then being one of the like people that Megyn Kelly interviewed before she went off, before she got into it with all the political stuff with all that stuff. That was, it's cool. And then I got to, well, it's really interesting too, because I got to meet someone that was called out for being a sexual predator too. And also realize that people can be, and I know this because of my own experiences, but just meeting someone that you had a great experience with. This person was completely nice. This person was someone that you saw as a good man. And there was some sketchy stuff going on, like with Chris Como.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a really great experience. We literally talked about him deep sea fishing with his son.
Yeah.
And he talked about like his wife is so great and beautiful and this and that. And then you find out that one of your friends, Danny from People, covered a story about him. And then you're reading that he grabbed someone, like that he was inappropriate at a party and vice versa. And that just makes you realize that the industry is so dark in a sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even people that you thought were good may not be good.
It's almost like that old saying, like you shouldn't have heroes because you'll just be disappointed by them.
Yeah.
And I kind of think like and I'm sure you feel this, I think we kind of talk in a roundabout way about this, but one of the things that's so weird about being in the public eye at any point is that like things that you or normal people get to do in the privacy of their own life, you get the experience of doing in the privacy of the entire world. Yes. And so, it's like, I always think back to when I was going through my divorce, which was like the darkest time of my entire life for several months. I always think to myself, I'm like, I had to do that in public. Like my mom found out from a TMZ article. So it's like, those are the things that, and I have my own opinions on Cuomo. They're not great, but it's interesting because you can meet people, you can know people in your real life. And then when something bad happens, you get to experience that in like real life. Or if we all do bad things, we all say bad things, right? At some point. And someone in your real life, you get the full experience of all the times you know them and all the good to go at that one or two bad things that they said or did. But when it's like someone in the public sphere, you don't have that foundational relationship. And then you also only have those mediocre or simple interactions that you have. So it's like you're comparing the public persona in this case with the experience you had talking about deep sea fishing, and then the experience of reading something horrible.
Yeah.
But that's public life, where
Yeah.
in private life, those things would be private.
I mean, to an extent, because I can even think of someone that I went to high school with, and I got into it with this person because when this one guy that I dated passed away, I went and I posted something that was a bit spicy. And some people think that you should honor the dead no matter what the circumstances are. And for me, it was a little taste of what the other survivors of John might have felt like, because this guy hit me with a car. He terrorized me. He literally was stalking me up until the day he died.
Jeez.
And I wrote that, and he would literally contact like certain media outlets and be like, if you only knew the Newells. But they were like, what is this guy? They didn't even, pay attention to it, because they're not going to pay attention to someone on the post writing certain things. They're going to pay attention to like 200 people writing something on a post.
Yep.
And when I did that, it just, they're, now I disassociated. I didn't know where I was going with this.
It happens to me all the time.
Right?
I think I'm like, I don't even know where I was going or why I started that.
I know where I was going with it. Okay, so I called out the guy on my Instagram post, and, for being dead, and just saying that not everybody is going to mourn this. Not everybody. I'm actually felt a relief that I didn't have to live in fear anymore. And it was crazy because the other girl that I knew from high school that was like, quote unquote, his girlfriend, but he would always lie to me about, she reached out, said, thank you for sharing that. But the point being in this is that this one guy got into it with me, and I went back at it with him. And
was this like on social?
On social,
media?
yes.
Okay.
And then he unfollowed me, didn't want anything to do with me. And then a couple months later, there's a news article of him selling Adderall to kids at school. Like, he's a coach and he was selling Adderall to kids. So anyone could be in the news.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and that's a great story. Anyone can end up in the news for the bad things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that, actually, if you don't mind me asking one more question. So about your experience with John. So the way you described it, it was kind of like it happened and then it kind of like caught fire. Did it catch fire right away, or was that like over the years and over time, because you had the podcast, you had the reenactment?
So I had this privilege of being a little bit more like financially stable during that time with my mom, with my family. We were doing well financially during that time. I mean, we took a huge loss because John took over $3 million from my mom. But
I didn't realize it was that much.
Oh,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Like with fighting with legal battles, him taking money, her trying to fix everything afterwards. Like when he had died too, we had to cover certain things, and because when someone dies, you have to take care of everything when they die. Yeah. And also like send things in and be like, hey, here's his death certificate, he's deceased now. And so when it comes to John, I always dissociate too.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to talk about that. I'm just, because what I was curious is like what your experience was like to kind of have like the spotlight. And was it just one day you woke up and it was everywhere, or was it like kind of this slow burn? And how did you calibrate during that time?
Yeah, so I had lawyers on everything. People would write articles. It would be more so knife wielding man stabs a girl in parking garage. My name wasn't attached to anything. Otherwise, we would have lawyers contact them,
Mm-hmm.
be like, you can't include the victim's name, this and that. And luckily, we never really had to do that. But one day, my sister calls me and she's like, hey, Terra, I my lawyer friend told me that the LA Times is doing an article. And by this time, my mom and I actually already signed on to it. And well, we didn't sign anything. We agreed to
Yeah.
do the project. And then we had to tell her, oh yeah, we're signing on to do, or we're doing this. And I want to be
Thanks
careful.
for letting me know.
Yes. And I want to be careful to say, like, we didn't sign anything whatsoever, but it's just the expression. We're signing on to do something. And we agreed to do the project. And then, and then she found out through someone else. But then it blew up once the LA Times got a hold of it. And like a little bit like right afterwards, Dr. Oz, a few shows, Dateline, and then they sold the podcast behind our backs. They didn't tell us they were selling it.
They did.
Yes.
What?
And like apparently being told like, oh, we're doing a podcast. But at this time, I didn't know what a podcast was. I wasn't well informed what a podcast was. And I've kind of gotten into it with the journalist lately because he was like, I told you. And then he sent me a voice memo being like, I told you, here's the voice memo. But it's very vague. I'm like, oh, it's a church sermon. And it's not a
You
church
don't
sermon.
know until you know. That's the
yes.
thing. It's not something someone can just explain to you, and unless you like listen or experience it. It's
yeah. And then I made friends with the person that they were trying to sell it to, like to get them to produce it. And so I find all this out years later and I get sent emails. I literally get sent the emails of them discussing the project. And it's just crazy to me because someone's literally going to make at least $3 million off this deal. And then like the survivors and victims aren't accounted for in this. That's ridiculous. And that's so unethical. And when it is a journalist and he's covering the story, but then you're using everybody's likeness and voice and realness, it gets turned into something else. It gets turned into an actual production. And so it's not a real hit journalist piece,
right.
And then it just is crazy to me too because journalists too don't pay other people money. Like my friend was going to get paid like at least $500K to produce it.
And did you like that's crazy? Like
Yeah.
and this is before maybe there was like a peak where there was money in podcasting. Like there's no money in podcasting now, which I think
this was the peak, Nick. This was the peak.
Yeah. So what did it feel like to have this emails back and forth of people like negotiating, telling your story without you involved and without paying you for it? Like at the time, were you like, this is fucked up? Or was it overwhelming? Like, or somewhere in between or something completely different?
It makes me sad because I did really like look up to like the journalists. I looked up to these people and to find out that, and then their response is like, oh, I'm salary. I'm just getting paid. But you're taking someone's story. They're making millions of dollars off of it. And also now there's like a podcasting studio and my friend's literally hosting a podcast on their network. And it just is it's upsetting to me because my podcast, my story, they wouldn't have a podcasting network without it. And I mean, I just have to accept the fact that I get to see my friends' clips with my attacker in the background.
Like what a I'm not trying to laugh. I'm just like this. It seems kind of ludicrous to me that you have zero involvement or zero. It's not even zero say, zero comp when your story is the content.
Yes.
And they're not involving you in the content production, producing, whatever process.
Yes. And then they've changed the RSS feed to the crimes of our times now. And now the journalist is hosting podcast episodes of other people's stories, like covering like different like crimes of the time.
So they used you to launch a true crime podcast, basically.
Basically, well, like to use off of that feed since it's already built upon.
Exactly.
And there's already those subscribers on it to pump out more content. But I went and I looked and I saw one of the reviews and they were like, I don't think this is very ethical. And I think it's good for people to, like, I don't want to start a fight with like people. I want to honestly like be on and host and like get, you know, like what I've earned in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just messed up. And I hope that my friend gets to have me on the show. I hope that I get to go to the studio. It's not to be like what she's doing is wrong or what they're doing right now is wrong, but just like knowing what it was built upon and knowing that I did see it completely unethical with the amount of money that was being pumped out to sell a podcast and then the $0 that I've seen from the podcast. And then I feel like when your story is out there, it's hard to live a normal life. Mm-hmm. It's hard to go to work and not be talked about your story. Like I go and I bake cookies 3 days a week and there's new people in all the time. And sometimes the girls are like, oh my gosh, I know you, or like, where are you from? And we were talking about this earlier of like, you know, getting asked like, where do I know you from? Or people being like, hey, I know you from high school. And then you're like, well, I'm 33 and you're 25. So I don't think we went to high school together.
Seriously.
And then being like, the question I always ask to create that awareness is, are you into true crime? And then when I ask that question, usually it clicks for them. And then like something I recommend you to do is be like, are you into love or dating shows?
I know. Well, that was one thing to the audience, we talked about ahead of time. I asked, I was like, what do you do when someone like recognizes you, but they're not putting the pieces together and it's kind of getting a little awkward? And that's a great question. I'd be like, do you watch reality TV? Are you into dating shows? That's just such an easy way to kind of like
click.
Yeah, and let them get there. I'm going to be using that, but I can imagine. I mean, I know it's hard. And then when people, you know, find out or put the pieces together, it creates this moment, at least for me, where you're like, did their view of me just change? Yes. Do you experience anything like that?
Yeah, because I'm known for the girl that killed her stepdad with a knife in his eye. And like I've had people literally come up to me and say, aren't you the girl that stabbed her stepdad in the eye? And I'm like, yeah, technically, yeah. But that's not really a great way to put it, you know? And I even had this one instance
Is that hurtful to you?
It is, because like, am I forever going to be known this way? And also, I think about when I want to have kids. Well, I want kids. I want to have kids, but like kind of got to be a little bit more together to have them.
You, me, and most people.
Right. So I think about the day that I have kids, and thinking about kids and thinking about how mean kids can actually be, you know,
Yeah.
and being like, oh, your mom, your killer, your kid's a killer. Like, that can actually be like a thing for me. And it makes me sad because I just feel that if I didn't have to do what I did, it would just be so different. But I had to do it because I wouldn't have been here otherwise. And it's so hard to get kids to understand, okay, like she had to do this, because when you're little kids, you think about murder and you think about, well, what I did was not murder whatsoever. It was self-defense.
Yeah.
But like, you think about that, and it's so hard to comprehend things even as a kid, that how would you expect your children to comprehend that, especially when you know they're going to get bullied for that? That's just going to be a thing.
That's really deep to think about. And then you've got to wonder too, like, when's the appropriate time to tell them, because you also don't want someone else to tell them.
Oh yeah,
right? Like,
absolutely.
I can't even imagine what that thought process must be like.
Yes.
I mean, I mean, it's very different, but like, I've thought about my future children, like going back and watching Love is Blind. I even thought about that like before, when I was still married. And it's very like, hard. And it's also one of the other things that that I noticed you had said, just in general. And the kids thing is a big thing. I think like you're going to be in a tough situation where you've got to balance the right time and the right way to tell them, so that they hear it from you and don't hear it from someone else with a jaded perspective, potentially,
Yeah.
or a media narrative perspective. And then they're at a position where like they resent you for not telling them. They resent you for, and when someone hears a story, it's hard to change their mind. That's just human nature. So there's like so many layers to that have to be nerve-wracking when you think about having a family.
Oh yeah. And then it's crazy too, because I have come out of a knife attack with very minimal wounds. And so when people are even thinking about that alone, that can make them have certain thoughts that are untrue. And I was just very lucky because I watched The Walking Dead.
I know. I know you had told me that before, and I've heard you say that before. To be completely honest, The Walking Dead has taught me a lot. Like I'm prepped for a zombie apocalypse. Let me tell you, more so than I'm prepped for being a parent. I can tell you that much.
I feel that to my core. I have my bag ready to go. I have everything in line. Like if there's a fire, if there's anything, I'm set. I probably, like, when COVID happened, I was praying for the zombies to come out.
Oh my God. I was like, I'm like, finally, all my prep is going to pay off. That was my take. I've got a plan. I've got a rooftop here. I know how I'm blocking the doors. I know how I'm taking over the building. Like, I was ready to go.
Oh, yes. Yes. And during that time, my mom had a house in Vegas, or in Henderson. And it was like a little, like, not like completely like in all the houses, but it was like next to some mountains.
Yeah.
Like there was a pool there. So I'm thinking, okay, we can do drinking water from the pool. We just have to get like the straws, the life straws.
Yeah.
We just have to get the life straws. We're going to do that. We can save money from having just like the pool and a water source, especially in Vegas when it's dry. But then we're going to be away from everyone. There's a gate. With the zombies getting under the gate, we just might do a few things to block underneath the gates. I just think about this stuff way too much.
I know. Well, I think The Walking Dead kind of made it a little more realistic. Yes. I even remember back in the day, like before The Walking Dead, when it was Dawn of the Dead, the remake in 2003 with the running zombies.
Oh,
that was when I was like, oh shit. I can't just outrun them. I've got to be able to outsmart them
Oh
and
yeah.
outsmart the other people because people are going to go completely crazy. And so like
Yes.
there was back in like 2015, I had like maps and stuff that were hidden in my Cookie Monster cookie jar for the escape paths that my roommate and I had developed and how we were going to get out of the city and where we were going to go. Like we had all of that stuff mapped out. I didn't have he was a gun holder. I didn't have guns, but I definitely
Okay.
have like a giant machete that is in my closet.
That's what I have too. I also have the Harley Quinn baseball bat
Nice.
because eventually I want to be like Negan and put like the spikes around
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah,
barbed
yeah.
wire around it.
Yeah.
And then, oh my gosh, I knew this guy that had guns. He had a lot of guns. And I was just going to go over to his house, get all the guns from him, maybe like this. I don't think I can say this, but maybe just like
beat him with Lucille if you have to. Be ready to.
that's a kinder way to say it, yes.
Yeah.
Because he also like is not a great guy, but I know he has all the stuff I need.
Yeah.
So
it's a game of survival at that point.
yeah, and also if he's not a great guy, you don't really want him being around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you know he'll go evil.
Uh-huh.
And then you've got this whole theme that started showing up in The Walking Dead in the show. You finished it, right?
Absolutely.
Like, did you finish? Okay.
Yes.
Me too. And then I haven't watched all the spinoffs, but you get to the point where you're like, wait a minute, are they the bad guys? Like when they went into Negan's facility and they killed those people in their sleep,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if I'm with them on that. Because
Right?
these people are, Negan's a bad guy, but they're also just doing what they have to do to survive. And it kind of like started being a brain fuck where I was like, now they're going into this compound and killing people in their sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right thing to do.
Well, that's what really created the great divide between Alexandria, and then they were like, we're going into the saviors, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then that's why they had to break off. And then there's like, okay, some people are going to the kingdom and,
Yeah, exactly. Man, that show and Game of Thrones is probably the two most must-watch live shows that I've ever had. Like it was a ritual with The Walking Dead. I would stop watching Sunday Night Football.
Yes.
I would watch the last week's episode again, then the new episode, then The Talking Dead, then the new episode again. Rinse and repeat. It's like 4 hours of The Walking Dead.
Same.
Just every week, every
Same.
Sunday.
Yes. Well, and then it was funny too because after The Talking Dead, they would play the episode twice.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you would watch it like 2 more times just to pick up on things that you didn't see in the beginning.
Yes, exactly. And the show is so methodically paced in almost every episode that the little nuances that they didn't call out that you would be able to pick up because you weren't overstimulated the second time.
Yeah.
As with where like you watch like some of these action shows, and as Game of Thrones went on, I thought they became much more of an action show where it became difficult to kind of like follow. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I felt like, especially by the last season, I was like, I'm like overstimulated. Like I'm watching a Marvel movie and I'm missing the subtleties that I think like make the show great. But we start a Walking Dead and Game of Thrones podcast and we can talk about that stuff.
Are you into Lord of the Rings at all?
I'm not
Okay.
like at all. And the funny thing is I didn't get into Game of Thrones until like season 6, I think, because I was like, I'm not going to watch some stupid Lord of the Rings like show because I don't really like fantasy that much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan too, so I have a lot of interesting. Like I have Thorin Oakenshield. It's from The Hobbit more so though. His like pipe. And it's like a wooden pipe, and it's from Hobbiton in New Zealand. And then I have Gandalf the Grey's like full-on hat.
Oh wow! Okay,
that was like $300, and I don't know why I had to just have that.
I mean, when you're a fan, sometimes you just buy stupid shit. I have stupid shit that I'm a fan of that I don't even want to tell the public. So, I think we all have our little things.
And then like I have like little like little
Oh,
zombies. My friends will get like there's a few guys back there too of
oh yeah, I can see
zombies.
him now.
Yes. And I like it. My friends will be like, I don't know if I should give this to you because of like your trauma and stuff. And then they give it to me and I'm like, what? And this
It's
guy, do you remember him?
yes, I've seen it before, but I don't remember exactly where.
Okay. So he's the guy in the Winnebago that Andrea stabs with like the screwdriver.
Oh, yes.
And that's like, how exactly
That's
I got John.
oh, wow. I mean, I guess at least you can kind of be okay with it. Laugh about it a little.
Yes. Well, like that scene is what my ex like thinks about in my attack.
Mm,
Not Collier, but the one that
yeah.
was like with me during that time. And he's like, "Oh my God, you remind me of Andrea in that part." And watched that part and I was like, yeah, because that's how I got his eye. And so I literally think that scene is what made me have my reflexes to get John that way.
That is, and that was like, that was around that time, right?
So
It,
around, so I remember, so the first episode I watched after my attack was when Negan came in with Lucille and killed everyone with the bat.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. When he killed
Glenn.
Glenn and well, I'm
Oh,
blanking on the other guy's name, the redhead army
it's
guy.
okay. His character has seen its days.
Yeah.
Um, but
Why am I blanking on his name?
oh, I want to say like the governor. I remember the part in the comic book when they come in with Rosita, um, Eugene.
And the guy whose name we can't remember.
Yes, and the guys whose name we can't remember. And he actually dyed his hair too. Like it was a lot redder in the show than it was in real life.
Yes. Yes. And then as there were like times when you could tell he just got a fresh dye job too, because
Yes.
it was like bozo red.
Yes. Yes. I remember that. Why can't we think of his name? Because
It's like on the tip of my tongue.
he started to cheat on Rosita with Sasha.
Yeah. Abraham.
Abraham, yes.
Abraham. Yeah.
Yeah. That
Oh,
makes
that
sense.
show. I miss the peak of that show. I really do.
Yes. It was so fun. I wish that the spin-offs would be like a little bit better.
Yeah. I tried. I watched the one with Rick and Michonne. I forget what it's called already. I
The ones
tried.
who lived.
Yeah, I watched that one. It was fine. You know what? They've done so many spin-offs and intertwined stuff so much that it never feels like it ends, which I think is what they're trying to do. But
Yeah.
it also leaves me feeling like there is no end, and I don't want to watch something that doesn't have an end. Does
Oh.
that make sense?
Yeah, because life ends.
Yeah. And shows end. And
Yeah.
I feel like, and I always, like, I remember when I first watched the end of Dexter, I
Oh.
was like, this doesn't feel like a series finale. This feels like a season finale. And that's
Yes.
how all of these shows feel to me. And I just feel like they don't have, there's not going to be a movie anymore. There's not going to be a show that's like The Walking Dead when all the shows collide and then you get some sort of conclusion.
Yeah.
They're just going to keep going and telling stories of the people that are worth paying to make the stories. And so I
Yes.
just feel like it's not going to end. I'm never going to feel satisfied.
Yeah. Well, with Dexter too, they have the prequel now,
Yeah,
and
which I haven't watched.
I liked that one actually.
Okay.
The sequel though with his son,
Yeah,
I wasn't such a fan of that one.
me neither.
But I think the prequel was great. And I thought that they did a great job with the cast.
Mm.
And like that's always something I'm paying attention because I've worked here and there in casting. And so I'm just like, ooh, that was really great for Deborah. That was really great for Dexter. And then like from Dexter, actually, I learned to hold a knife tight so that I wouldn't stab myself like Hannah McKay.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're learning a lot from these TV shows that has been beneficial and helpful.
Yes. And then like even Burn Notice. Did you ever watch that show?
My sisters used to. I've never like watched it, but I'm familiar with it.
Okay, so I used to watch that show and he would say like little tidbits. He'd be like, this is how you control a knife.
Mm,
And so I always remember if you're ever in a knife attack, you have to control the knife.
that's again, you don't know you'll ever retain that or need that until you need it. But that's like very nonchalant, helpful, right?
Yes,
'Cause
yes,
I would never think that.
yes. Well, it was funny because it's like all these shows and even like Law and Order. In Law and Order, there's a theme with all the survivors, all the people that
Hmm.
survived. Is they fought for their life, they screamed like hell, they always fought back.
Yeah.
Or they ran away, you know? And in my attack, I couldn't run away. He grabbed me, and I was trying to flee first because I was trying to go to all the responses. And then, so when he grabbed me, I was like, okay, fleeing isn't, the way. And now I have to fight back, like all the people in SVU and Law and Order. And then when I grabbed the knife and then I controlled the knife, like I learned in Burn Notice. And then when the knife fell, I picked it up, willed on him, but I held it tight, like Hannah McKay, so I didn't have the scar like her. And then
Mm.
I also tossed the knife away because, you don't want to see all
Them
the
to,
horror
yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
and them like come up and Freddy Cougar you. So like it's like all the movies, all these shows had a way in saving me.
Right. I mean, that's kind of like karma. Or not karma. What's the word I'm looking for? Like divine intervention, or like all of your path and all of these little things that you retained or learned from the movies and shows you like, being there to support you in this crucial moment.
Yes, and like very serendipitous.
Yes, that's a better word than I couldn't find that word. That seems very serendipitous.
Yes. So it like is interesting, and like TV, even though there is a lot of things like we like to call out with it, there is interesting things that are good about it in a sense.
Hmm. Right. And that you never knew in the moment either that these things would be recalled and helpful.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you just kind of take it all in.
Yeah. And maybe there's a kid watching a Marvel movie and he might know how to defend himself if someone comes around to grab him. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's, yeah, little lessons. I like that. I wanted to, I love our little sidebar about The Walking Dead. That was much needed. I miss that show. I miss having something on Sunday nights to look forward to other than getting the Sunday scaries about work.
I miss that. Well, I feel like there's little shows I get into. I got into Grey's Anatomy at time, but then they bring it back, and then I feel
No, it
like
just
they
keeps
make it
going.
so political at times.
Oh, okay. I've
Yeah.
never watched that.
Okay. It's great with all the McDreamy and McSteamies.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Patrick Dempsey. I loved Patrick Dempsey because of his work in Scream 3 when I was a teenager.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for sharing so much of just everything that you've shared so far about your experience. But what I think is so fascinating, and this is, I, I relate to you because I think so much of what I've had to process in my experience, which are very different, but I've had to like separate my identity and myself from being the guy on reality TV or the guy from Love is Blind or Nick from Love is Blind. And, I rationalize that by saying that is something that I did. That's not who I am. And when you were talking earlier about kind of like the having kids and people, am I going to be defined by this my whole life? I found that like resonated within me because I wonder, am I going to be known for this my whole life? And now I remember there was someone probably about a year ago, I was on a podcast and I hadn't Googled myself in a year because everything that would come up about me would be related to my relationship, divorce, not even the relationship, the divorce, the are they or aren't they still together, endless articles that come out. Every season there's a new Love is Blind, which is twice a year. It would be a quote taken completely out of context that was then used to smear me by like I could only describe as a coordinated campaign about me losing my job, blowing through my savings, trying to find a job, not being taken seriously, even though I had a great resume, and all of the headlines. And this was a one sentence I said in a 30-minute interview about unionization and fair pay and, reality TV rights. And I said, they're making, I essentially said they're making money on this forever because it's going to be on Netflix forever. And I can't find a job, have blown through my savings, and I am at risk of being homeless because I literally had run through all my cash, cashed out my 401ks. And I had just said, I was like, yeah, like I've got 2 months left. I can pay my mortgage and then I don't know what to do. And that became the headline of a 30-minute interview. And it just ran over and over. And it was so out of context. And then you know how it is too, being in the true crime spaces, you have content, then you have content about the content, and then you have content about the content creators that are creating the content about the content. And it just goes into this like never ending, like shitty, irrelevant, useless content where people are almost talking shit about the people that are talking shit about the people that are making the content. And it's like, what? Like, this is bad content. This is bad. And so like that was going on. And I just stopped Googling myself because I was like, I don't want to see this anymore. Like, this isn't who I am. I'm being totally misrepresented by these articles. Like, I did not blame show. It's funny because that was the thing. Nick from Love is Blind says he's going to be homeless, blames Netflix, blames show, all this stuff. I literally say, and someone sliced this together, God bless them, on social media. That was me saying, they show the headline and it's like, I'm not blaming the show. Like, I'm not blaming Netflix. And they just spliced it together. Because the context of it was, I was saying like the whole show experience created this environment in my life that I wasn't anticipating, which was now, I go from being a vice president of marketing to people saying they don't take me seriously. Like, I didn't think about that. I didn't think that I would have to learn how to navigate conversations with HR about how I manage being a public figure and doing my job, or how I'm going to manage scenarios where I meet a customer that didn't like me on the show, or stuff like that. And it's like, I never thought I'd be in that predicament where I have to learn how to like explain how I live my life to a job. So all of this to say, I stopped Googling myself. And I just decided in my head, this was something that I did. This isn't who I am. And I just don't care what other people who define me by this think. They're irrelevant to me and my thought. And I'm just going to keep doing what I think is the right thing to do, which is what I do with UCAN. How I unapologetically just push that mission and push our cause there. And I just don't care what the media says about it. I don't care what the people that are disingenuous about it. Like, if someone wants to debate me, I'm happy to debate if they think something different or they want to, have a honest conversation. But like, I'm not going to let anybody else define me and who I am. And so this is hard. And it ain't perfect. And I have it in concept. I don't always have it in practice. But it made me, all of those things rushed into my head when you said, am I always going to just be known for this? And so that's an honestly so fucking relatable thing that you said. And I just want to first give you a word of encouragement and then ask you a question. You're not going to be known by that to the people that matters. The people that matter are going to know you for you, and they're going to know you for the survival instincts that you had. They're going to know you for the things that they know you for that don't ever relate to what happened to you and what you've been through. And then there's the people that follow you because they trust you. They follow you because they believe in you. And they're going to start to remember you for the advocacy work that you're doing, for the fact that you're trying to help other people who may not know how to navigate abuse or know how to navigate a traumatic experience. And you're turning yours into something good to help others when you could have very easily gone the other way and used it to hurt others. So those people that know you for that, those people that take your course and you slowly start to impact the way true crime content is created, that's who you are. That's your legacy. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about this today, because that's who you are. And the people that matter, that's what they're going to remember you for.
Thank you. I think I needed that, especially because, you get followers from certain things and then they fall off. It's been like a week of me losing 100 followers for actually calling out Jared Leto.
Who cares about Jared Leto?
I mean, I love his movies. I think he's a great actor, but is he a great person? Unfortunately, not with all the allegations that are coming out. And, it sucks at times when you get that drop because you think, okay, am I doing something wrong here? Am I doing but you're right. The people that care, the people that matter, those are the ones that are there, and those are the ones that are listening. And there could be a survivor that hasn't come out but feels supported because I posted something about him standing with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for that.
Exactly.
I really appreciate that. And I think that I really hope to create a ripple in true crime. And so thank you for that.
Well, I mean it. And I could hear, I feel like I could hear in your voice that the real question, you really question that. And I think that's fair. And I think you'll probably do that your whole life. I will too. Is this really it? But the reality is there's one person that reaches out to you, or one person that feels strong from your story or the work that you do. I mean, that's one more person than there would have been otherwise. And I've lost 50,000 followers since Love is Blind.
Okay.
And I've hemorrhaged followers like crazy. I'm gonna have to update my podcast soon, just because for the last year, it's been, when I had 350,000 followers, it was my 330 plus thousand followers, and then I had to lower it to my 320 plus thousand followers. Now it's my 300,000 plus followers, and it's almost under that now. So it's my 290 plus thousand followers. But I had these, so I'm very political, and I have a lot of, I've had guests on my show. I've had politicians on my show. I've had news commentators on my show. I've gone on other shows like that. And I like to talk about politics. I like to debate about it. I like to have conversations about it, but I also like to look at it nuanced. It's not about my opinion all the time. I try to talk about it objectively. Okay. People don't like that. And anytime I say anything about politics, I actually probably lost followers today because I posted about what my experience was in LA. Yes. And there's a lot of people that want to believe LA is on fire.
Well, there's certain parts of it, certain parts are the hot spots, but I even had Collier look up where it was going to be and if it was going to be safe and everything. And because, he has my back and he's going to look up that stuff for me and make sure that I'm safe. And there was nothing around there. There was, there was the guard up somewhere near, but they were literally just standing at a building and I didn't even see them, but it was just online that was there.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, I think as long as you're being true to yourself and you're feeling good about the work that you're doing or the content you're putting out there or standing up for what you believe in, be uncancelable. Be uncancelable. The ones that want to cancel you, don't give them the power.
Yeah.
And that's my new philosophy is I'm uncancelable. I could do something or say something terribly off and terribly wrong or misinformed. And it doesn't matter because I'm uncancelable. I'll correct it.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm myself and I'm doing the best I can and I'm trying to do the right thing. And that's what matters. I have integrity. So you're the same way. And trying to remember that, I think, is helpful. And again, anytime I posted some satirical stuff that literally said in the caption, this is satire about politics. And I got just stay in your lane, reality star.
Oh my God.
Oh, I get those. I still get those. I get those all. Stay in your lane, reality star. What's my lane? You don't know me. You want to know, like, this is more on brand for me to talk about politics than it is to talk about Love is Blind. Like, so it's like, yeah, whose lane are you in? Get the fuck out of my lane, loser.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I feel about it. And, there's sometimes I've talked about this before, but I posted over the election time, and I don't care what side people are on. Like, you get a voice at the table. This is America, right?
Yes.
Like, be kind and respectful about it.
Yes.
And so I was looking around and I was like, there's so many celebrity endorsements. There's so many like commercials that are like contradicting each other from both sides. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, the average person is probably so overwhelmed by like Beyonce saying one thing and I'm trying to think of
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan saying one thing, Hulk Hogan saying one thing, all of these celebrities that were coming out and like endorsing. And to me, it's like, that's not your job, to be this place of power and lecture people on what to do. And so I just posted a reel and I said, my message to everyone is think about what's important to you. Look at the candidates, and the one that best represents the things that are important to you, that's who you should vote for. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to them. Don't let them. I lost thousands of followers. I got nasty comments. I got nasty, you're a Trumper. Oh, you're a libtard. I'm like, the funny thing is like, I'm neither of those things, but people just like project it. And so I lost a bunch of followers, but you know what? That's me. I am the kind of person that isn't going to tell you who to vote for. I'm going to try and help you get the information that you need so you can make a vote that matters to you. And so I just didn't, I just don't care. Goodbye, followers. You weren't supposed to be here.
Yes. See, for politics, I don't touch on my platform unless it has to do with domestic violence or abortion, because people should know that with abortion into effect, it actually lowers crime. And so to me, and that's like a woman issue to me. And I mean, I personally grew up Christian. I was such like a pro-lifer all my life, but then you grow up and you get older and you realize like certain circumstances, and I personally would never get an abortion unless like it was like a I don't know the right word for it, but like a topic or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact word, but basically if like a life or death situation, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I would never get it unless like it was one of those situations, but that's my personal journey, and no one else should have to make the choice of, and also like think about the kids. Like if you have a baby, if it is unwanted, you didn't ever want it, like how do you feel the kid's going to feel growing up? I don't know. I just like am able to put myself in those situations, and like politics otherwise, because I want everyone to come and have like a safe place and not think like, oh, but I deal with domestic violence. That's much different than reality TV, Well,
yeah, true. But also when you're making like a commentary on Jared Leto or something, or whomever that might be, there's going to be people that idolize Jared Leto for one reason or another, appreciate him one reason or another, and that's going to contradict your post, and then they're going to get mad at you and then say, make their choice to unfollow you or whatever. But I don't think the actions of other people should make you question what you felt like was the right thing for you to do. That being said,
that's true.
We all post shit that we have to unpost because we're like, I missed this here, right? Like, how many times do you hear, and so since deleted the tweet? It's like, Didn't Elon Musk just delete a tweet? He deleted the tweet saying that Donald Trump is on Epstein's list. Like, it's out there,
Oh,
man. We all have screenshots. You can delete it all you want. But anyway, you know what I mean. It's like,
I love
it's,
that little battle with like I've
oh,
seen these tweets pop up like being like, oh, just them digging at each other, and I was just
I was like, I needed this. I remember I was like, I needed this. It's so silly. And somehow Trump came out the bigger person, which I think is even more hilarious because he's the most petty man maybe in the history of the world. But it was so funny and ridiculous.
I'm from Orange County, California, so I can't make comments on that. But I will just say I can never vote for anyone that has sexual charges against them or allegations.
Which is, I think, totally fair.
Yeah.
And that's like that's your prerogative. And you can say that confidently. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell people what you're trying to, in your words, what you're trying to accomplish with the work you're doing. You help people through coaching. You help people through, you have retreats. You have content that's available on your website. Tell people all about that and what you're trying to accomplish and what your work is looking to
Yes.
change.
Thank you. So I saw so many podcasts, so many true crime podcasts. It's so saturated. There is so many huge true crime podcasts that I listen to, and even that I'm friends with those people. And I don't think what they're doing is 100% ethical. They take stories, they rip them from the headlines, and then they're living large in a nice house and from the stories from the podcast. And so I really wanted to create this awareness, and I've been talking about it on and off on articles, different podcasters, different podcasts about the ethics of true crime and about the experiences that we actually go through. And I want people to know that this is the worst day of someone's life that is being thrown out there into the media. And how do we do it responsibly? I know when a case is being covered in the headlines and it's an ongoing case, you may not be able to talk to the family members because they're under certain gag orders for that case. But how do we cover those cases more ethically? And also podcasting, I believe this was said in a Vice article, Vanity Fair or Vice, one of the two, but podcasting was quoted as the wild, wild west. And there is no ethics. There's no like a code for podcasting. There's like, because with journalists, there's a code of ethics for journalists. There's nothing with podcasts. You could go on a podcast, you could spew out false information, and that happens with so many true crime cases, is that people on podcasts will go and say their opinion and say whatever they want. They also will go on Reddit forums, pull information off of Reddit forums and quote that as information, and that is absolutely not true whatsoever. So I created a podcasting course. It was actually with Collier that I wanted to create the podcasting course, but I was the one that kind of just was like, okay, I'm doing this. You're just going to be here for the lives. And so I was fortunate for him to join me for the first round of lives, but now it's something, because we've been on a journey with our relationship, and it's something that I needed to gain a little bit more independence in myself. And so I took it over. And I'm doing it all myself, and I don't do it all myself. I put together it all myself. However, I have so many great people that join me with their opinions. For instance, you are joining me for a panel for media for survivors, or media for survivors and co-victims. And I'm excited to have you. And that panel is actually free for anyone that wants to join, because I also know that a lot of survivors, and especially given the economy that we're in right now, a lot of people are not at the financial state that they were, say, a year ago. And so I want everyone to kind of have resources available. Like the podcasting course, if you want to do it, there's exclusive videos. I literally teach you how to start a podcast and or revamp it or do whatever you need to do for your podcast. I teach you about how to interview victims, how to book victims, even how to edit, how to market your podcast, how to monetize from it in different ways that aren't the traditional ways for monetizing, but also like creative ways for monetizing, like hitting up your friends and families that you know that own businesses and asking if you could do an ad on your podcast for them, and also marketing off of that way, because the best way to grow and to make money is to connect with the peers around you and really ask them for their help to push it out, to share the word, because friends should help friends. And even if
Yeah.
it's doing a 5-star review, that's so helpful. Or being like, hey, can you share this with your friend? You don't have to pay your friends ads for their podcast, but if you can and you're in that financial place and okay, this person has a podcast and I know there's going to be people around the area that listen, this is actually going to help my business in some way, because there's always going to be ears or like eyes on it, because I think it's in marketing or something. You have to see it 3 times or something like that to really like get through to your head.
It's used
7?
to be 7. I think it's like 50 now.
Okay.
Because we're so overstimulated. But yeah, you're right. The concept. Yeah.
Yeah, so like teaching them all the good things about that and supplying them with other experts, where I'm not an expert in sound, but I know a ton of people that are the best of the best. So I have them on to ask them questions. And I think for ethical true crime, there's a different response that everybody has for ethical true crime, given their experience with the subject matter. And so I think it's important to hear what everyone else has to say, what they think true crime is, and then create your own set of guidelines to go off of that are more ethically inclined. Like, I'm not telling you this is what you need to do to be ethical. I'm saying, hey, I'm giving you all these opinions, and then you're going to take your opinion and do what you think is ethical at the end of the day, and listen to all these survivors and their opinions.
Which I think is the key core, is letting people kind of own their story. If I had to
Thanks.
sum that up, and like, is that right? Like, is that a fair assessment to make?
Yeah. And, I get that I'm not the only true crime story out there. I'm not the only survivor out there. And so my opinion will be helpful for someone who's like me. But for instance, I like it when people are like, oh, I'm sorry, or invalidate me in that way, where I know another survivor where if you tell her sorry, she's like, can you fuck off now?
So yeah, it's like each individual person has their own story and way of managing it and handling it. And that's the thing with like any kind of trauma or triggers or whatever, is like it's going to vary by person. We're all wired differently. We all have, some people may not enjoy the zombie figure, right? Like that might be a triggering event for someone else in a situation. And so you just gotta, I think, be respectful of people. And this is the approach I take with reality TV. When I have someone who is cast, I tell them, we don't have to talk about anything you don't want to. Tell me what's off the table. If we start talking about something and you don't want to continue, I will cut that out and we will just drop it. Or if you want to talk ahead of time, or you don't want to, I don't obviously make people record a podcast unless they come to me. I never ask, I shouldn't say never. I very rarely ask someone to come on my show from reality TV. Usually they ask.
Okay.
Or if they're being outspoken on their own, I'll reach out and ask if they're interested. But I think you just gotta, we should be in control of our own stories, and that is whether you are a public figure or not. You have to be, you have to control, not even control, but like be an active part of your story, especially when there's content for money being
Yeah.
made.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think it's also interesting too, like when people get books and they have them come out, I think that's also like a good time to be like, oh, let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like I have Now Accepting Roses, which I know this girl Amanda Stanton, and she was on The Bachelor.
Okay.
And she wrote that book, and then inside that book it like gives like a little bit about the hotel situation, some exclusives about like being beyond The Bachelor, and then you're like hearing some of this stuff and you're like, this is kind of horrible.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
That was my wake up call. Was like I was going through my like worst time of my life where I was just like, I can't. I in the course of like, what was it, 3 4 maybe 8 weeks, I had been served divorce papers. I had been completely smeared and like defamed, and then I lost my job partially because of it. And it was just boom, 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 hit. And I was just sitting there and I was like, man, and I did an interview with a psychologist, Dr. Isabel. And I was like, I went from the whole beginning to the end. It was several hours. And she's on the board and a co-founder of
Yes.
UCAN. Yeah. So I just was like, this whole thing was so fucked up. I'm like, from the moment that I was reached out to and how I was just sold according to what I wanted to buy about the whole process. And so distance helped me understand how fucked up it was and how somebody should probably do something to fight back against this, because I'm really, really strong and I know that I can handle it. But there's a lot of people that should never be in that situation, that get put in that situation. And it's devastating to have that happen to people.
Yeah. Like I know that I don't know who has been better about this and stuff, but I know before certain shows have been completely ridiculed for the mental checks, like the psychology
psych
about,
evals.
yes, the psych evals, and then they have on people that are completely like unhinged and just utterly bonkers.
Those were, I had a producer from The Bachelor and several other shows on my podcast last year. And he was telling me, he's like, it's like Bachelor crazy. It's like just the right scoring where they can like push them to get the drama out of them, but like they probably won't have a complete psychotic breakdown. And that was like their sweet spot. And, I think too, like you sign away your rights to your psychological exam on Love is Blind, or at least you used to. I don't know if that's still the case, but you can't even get it. So like I have no idea what the results were. We tried to have a whole bunch of cast members reach out and get them, and they said, no, you signed them away.
Not even for yourself?
Not even for yourself.
You can't be like, am I crazy?
Yeah. Am I the crazy one here? But yeah, it's stuff like that I think is very it's very on purpose. It's done on purpose. And I think that just overall, you're not like an active participant in your life or your story.
Yeah.
And at the core, like that's not acceptable, especially when it's being used to entertain people.
Oh yeah, 100%. I even talked to someone, Jackson Mickey. He was friends with my friend McCall, and my friend McCall was like, you should have him on your podcast, Terra. And I had him on, and he talked about his experience on Big Brother. And that was interesting too, because like they feed them the slop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is not very ethical to even feed them the slop.
Mm-mm. There's so many unethical things that happen on all. There's the thing, it's all of these shows because none of them are regulated. None of them have to follow labor law
Yeah.
because they classify people as contractors. Then they threaten you with NDAs. It's just completely, talk about the wild, wild west. It's like the same. There's no code of ethics. There's no ethics in like psychologist code of ethics or counselor's code of ethics that prohibits them or gives them guidelines for working on reality TV, for doing psych evaluations for reality TV or documentaries or whatever, docuseries, none of that. So I think there's just a huge miss that we've had in this huge gap in society where people who are being exploited for their story to entertain others are just completely eliminated or removed or invalidated in that process.
Yeah, yeah, and at least this guy won, and so he got a bunch of money. But he was like, this experience itself was
Yeah.
not great, and you're locked in this house. And then he also, I feel like whenever there is a relationship, people choose sides.
Yeah, 100%. Can confirm that to be true.
Like, even with my own, and like with like going through the breakup and stuff, people just like, a lot of people actually took my side, but then you have that love for the person, and you're like, wait, please don't take, no one take a side, no one needs to take a side.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I remember feeling that way too because, I on Reddit, our good friend Reddit,
Yes.
some guy saw me at brunch with my friend who was here visiting from England, who I hadn't seen in like 5, 6 years, and with my friends, and started this rumor that I was there with my girlfriend, and that's why my I must have cheated, and that's why my marriage ended, and it was like wildfire, the messages I started getting. And then, um, you know, uh, other people started believing it, we'll just say, and posting about it. And then before I know it, I'm like getting these nasty comments, being called a cheater. My friends being called a home wrecker. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And people started taking sides then. And it was just like crazy. And I don't think the public should take sides, but I also think like taking sides at the end of a relationship may make someone feel better in the moment and validated in the moment, but ultimately it doesn't help anybody.
No, and then when you're going through that breakup, just everybody's worst quality comes out during that point.
Yeah,
And when it's
absolutely.
publicized, you're just,
Again,
everyone has critiques.
yes, and most people that break up or get divorced, they do it in the privacy of their own life. But when
Hmm.
you're any kind of public figure, it can ignite like wildfire and just
Yeah. I'm like, what if you get back together with that person?
yeah, it's just it's brutal and it's public. It's just it's not necessary. But
Yeah.
um, I want to wrap us up here. But and I feel weird because I usually ask ask my guest if they want to ask me anything. But you interviewed me on your podcast, so I don't know if you have anything that you would want to ask me before we tell people where they can find you and sign off.
I feel like I have asked you questions throughout this podcast,
Yeah,
even though you
totally.
were interviewing me.
No, but that's good. It should be more. I like a more conversational. Like we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes, yes. I think, for me, I am curious to know, and I feel like you probably do get asked this, but do you feel like when you are on a show with a person, like there's just forever like a connection with that person? Like, do you still like keep in touch every now and then and just be like, hey, this is going on just because of that experience?
You know, no one's ever asked it like that before. People ask, "Oh, do you still talk to my ex Danielle?" We haven't talked in like a year and a half. I think that personally, for me, when you break up, it's out of sight, out of mind. Like it has
Okay.
to be, or you end up, I think, lingering, and it takes longer to heal, and all of that kind of stuff. But I know I there's definitely like always going to be that connection that we did this together and that we lived through this together and that we went through this together. And I think as time goes on, like that definitely fades. But every 6 months, a new season comes out, and every 6 months, the messages start again, and the "Are you guys together?" DMs start, and the articles start. And so, even as you distance yourself from the time that you were together or the last time you talked, the situation of being married and divorced in the public eye and being part of the biggest reality show in the world, it's there every time there's a new season because people go back and watch again. People check in on their favorite and their least favorites and the people in between, the articles, who's together, who's not together. The with Love is Blind, usually UCAN stuff picks up at that time because people start noticing, they're watching it again. They're like, oh, look at all this food propaganda that they're doing now. And so like the eyes come back to it, and then it kind of like heats up again. So I think like that kind of keeps it sort of keeps almost like the connection there.
Okay.
Even if it's not something that like we're engaging with. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Because like even with my ex, like he was a part of like the Dirty John story in a sense. Like I don't have contact with him because he has a wife, and I want to respect that relationship.
Of course.
And I want to see him grow in that relationship. And I think it would be weird if I came around and he paid more attention or just paid a little too much attention to me. You know what I mean? And then that creates issues. And I want to be respectful of his wife because like I'm a girl's girl and I respect relationships, you know?
Yeah. And I think for him too, like if he wants to respect his relationship, he should not engage in, too much of a conversation with someone. I think it's, and I think it's totally fair. I think that now you met Carrie at the premiere. Yeah. Like it's relatively new. It's, we're 6-ish months into it now. And she's very like she's never watched the show. She doesn't watch reality TV. But every now and then, like something pops up, and that's weird for her, I'm sure. And it's weird for me too. Like even on my phone, which is happens to everybody, like, 3 years ago today, you were doing this with your ex-wife, and, like the memory pops up, let alone, and that's normal people dealing with that. Like, let alone every 6 months, the new show comes out and then it shows up in the feeds or, people tag you and stuff. And so I think it is just like, you got to kind of like respect your relationship and respect other people's relationships. If you're a good person anyway, some people don't care about that stuff.
That's true. Yeah, but it's good. And it seems like, you might have to have like more conversations with her around stuff, but like that helps build stuff more. It helps build the connection, and
the trust and the understanding and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, like even at the premiere, like you guys were taking photos and I was like, should I get a photo? And then I was like, no, like he's having a moment with like his girl. And then if I come in,
I totally wanted to get a photo with you though. I was disappointed we didn't take one.
But like, like if I was just like, oh, let me get in too, that might made her feel like some type of way,
Totally. Yeah. I think she probably would have.
She would have understood, but like,
Yeah, she's pretty cool about all of it. I think I'm nicer to people about it than sometimes she would want. Like I'll see, what do you do? After they come up and ask for a photo instead of just taking the picture and going. But I'm naturally curious about people. But she's pretty understanding of it. I think sometimes it's still kind of shocking to her when someone comes up and is like, oh my God, can I take a picture? And then some people, I noticed, where were we when someone gave her a weird look because like they clearly they're like casual viewers of the show. Oh. And they like couldn't square the circle that
they're like,
they recognized me, but
show?
I was with someone else. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think like there's probably some weirdness there to work through too. But all in all, she's pretty cool and understanding about everything.
Yeah. And well, like people just stare at you when you're blonde too. So you could tell her that too. Good
point. That's a great point. Hopefully she stopped listening by now because I know she's excited about this episode. So
I love it.
Well, no, that was actually a really good question. That's a really good question. I think, you've been awesome and very open. And I hope that, you obviously, we'll keep in touch and keep talking, but like, I'm really excited for our panel in a couple of weeks.
Yay.
I'm really excited for the work you're doing
next week.
Is it next week?
Yes.
I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Because I have
next
to post.
week. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll post too. I'll post about it too. So tag me. Yeah.
Yes. Let anyone, that one you're on too, anyone can come for free. They could you could send them the Zoom link. I could send them it, like whatever, because I want that one's available just for anyone because, it's been cool and rad when I see other like I have a survivor friend. She's going on Annie Elise, and she's huge in true crime. I also know Annie too. But she's like, you trained me, Terra. And I was like, love you.
But isn't that like validating? It is. Those are the important people. Thanks again for coming on the show. This has been wonderful. Where can people find you on social media?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am everywhere. Terra Newell, Terra, last name Newell, Newell, except for on Twitter, I'm Terra_Newell. And YouTube, I believe it's Terra Newell Survivor. So you can find me there. And all the episodes are on YouTube and anywhere where podcasts are available for Terra's Baddies Club.
And all of those links are below, so you don't have to remember any of that. Just scroll down to the show notes and click. Thanks again. I have a feeling we're probably going to do this again sometime. And actually encourage everyone to check out your website, your podcast episodes, and your panel discussion, or your podcast course and your panel discussions too.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Eyes Wide Open. If you enjoy the show, the best way to support us is by sharing or dropping a review. For more information and content, check out engagewithnick.com or find me on Instagram at nthompson513. Don't go through life blind. Do the work so you can show up in the world with your eyes wide open.